What is going on, guys? Nick back here with another fishing video, and as you guys can tell from the title, in today's episode I'm going to be showing you guys how to fish for bat rays in the Bay Area. And if you guys are lucky, you're going to be able to catch leopard sharks, shovelnose rays or skates, whatever you want to call them, and stripers depending on your location. I'm going to try to keep this as short, as simple as possible, but there's a bunch of subjects I need to touch on. And bat ray fishing is a relatively easy style of fishing, so you just cast it out there and leave it there. So if you guys are beginners, this is a great way to get started into fishing, and even if you're an advanced angler, I bet you can still get some tips out of it. So let's get right into the video. Okay, first thing, if you guys know, you watched my last video, how-to striper video, gear is really important. Without good gear, you won't really land as many good fish. So anyways, for rays, you're gonna want a 4,000 to 8,000 size reel, depending on where you are. Where I live, it's mostly like relatively small, most of the fish, so I have a 4,000 reel, but I feel like that's a bit small. And you can go from 4,000 to 8,000 for reels. Shimano has some good ones, Penn, Daiwa. I'll pop up a couple photos of some good ones and leave the links down below. But for rods, I'm sorry guys, I'm not a big rod guy. I don't know too much about rods. Just go to your local tackle store or look online for some recommendations. So yeah, for your line, you're gonna want a 25-pound at least main line up to 65, again depending on your location. Braided line, monofilament line are your options. I personally like braided line because you can fit more on the spool. It cuts through the air better, so you can cast farther. And for monofilament, you don't have that benefit of casting as far and you can't fit as much. But braid is definitely more expensive, so it's just up to you guys and your budget. Okay, the second thing for bat ray fishing are the rigs. So I'm going to go through a couple of my favorite rigs. So for the first one, the Texas rig, the Texas rig, super easy to tie. I'll show a photo of like how to, super simple. The only downside is it doesn't cast too well. The fish can feel hook immediately, but it's super simple. I mean, any beginner, a kid can tie it, so it's really simple. Great rig for beginners. My second favorite rig is the Carolina rig. So the Carolina rig is basically a hook. I'll show directions for that again, or picture, to the line, to the swivel, and to a weight. And I like this rig because when the fish picks up the bait, the weight will sit on the bottom, and so when the fish takes it, it's not going to feel anything for a while. So it won't be able to feel the tension as much, the resistance, so you'll be able to catch more wary fish. So that's my take on the Carolina rig. Casting is not the best because the weight tends to slide sometimes when you're casting. But yep, that's my opinion on the Carolina rig. My last favorite rig is the high-low rig. You guys have been seeing me use that a lot. It's a new rig that I recently started using. It's mainline down to a swivel, or just you attach it straight away, and it has two hooks to ensure that you're gonna have a bait on most of the time, just in case it comes off while you're casting or smelt picks it off or something, and it's gonna have a weight on the bottom. And that rig casts really well. The fish can feel it immediately, they can feel the tension immediately, but it's a great rig. Always gonna have bait on there, so yeah, probably my favorite for bat rays, and I definitely recommend it. I'll show you guys some links for how to tie rigs in the video below, because I don't want to keep my video too long. So if you guys are interested, you want to go check out how to tie, you're not sure, I'll go link that down below. So yeah. Okay, the next thing I'm going to go over is the hooks and weight sizes for those particular rigs. So depending on where your location is, where you're fishing, again on the size of the fish, I would go from a 3/0 circle hook up to an 8/0. So those hooks are going to be good size. You can get the Gamakatsu, Mustad. Any of those brands work really well. They don't bend out. And yeah, for weights, I would go, again, depending on the current, the tides, wherever you're fishing, how far you want to cast, I would go from at least 1.5 ounces. Again, all depends on your rig, to like up to 6 ounces. like maximum. So that's if the current's ripping and you're gonna want a heavy weight, but that's my take on weights. So the next thing we're gonna go over is bait. So what I like to use for bait is squid. Squid's generally my favorite. It smells and stays on the hook pretty well. Shrimp does work, however it comes off the hook and there's not much scent to it. For sharks and rays, you can use perch heads, rockfish if you get a keeper. The heads typically work well. Smelt, anchovies, crabs. I mean, they eat a lot of things, so whatever other scraps you can find that stay on the hook well, that'll probably work. But squid, probably my favorite. And the last thing I'm gonna go over before we go fishing is tides. So tides, it's pretty basic. For rays, any moon phase is good, but just 2 to 3 hours before high, just as long as the current's moving, and 2 to 3 hours, or just an hour after high tide is generally good. Yep, those are the tides. So without further ado, let's hit the water. Okay, we're going fishing right now, but I forgot to mention leaders. So for leaders, that's the thing you use to tie your rig. It's generally going to be monofilament or fluorocarbon, and you're probably going to want 40-pound to 80-pound leader, just in case. For like sharks have like sandpaper like skin, so they can cut it up pretty easily, and rays like to go rub on the rocks, like rub your line on the rocks, so it's just better to have a thicker leader. So 40 to 80 pound, just the way to go, and I'll leave a link down below for the types of leaders. Generally, I'll pack up the squid into pieces of 3 or 4 for like single trips, and so see how it's all frozen, so I'll just go in the water and sit it in there for a while. Okay, now once it's defrosted enough, take it out. We have a chunk like this, and I'll break it up into 2 to 3 pieces. Okay, so I'll stick my fingernail in there. If you guys don't have a knife, I just use my fingernail. Break it into a chunk like this, about this size, because I'm using 3/0 hooks, and then break it into another chunk if I can. Like this, so I'll have like 3 pieces from 1 piece of squid. And then because the fish here are generally smaller, I'm using like smaller hooks and smaller pieces of bait, and so I'll just hook it through the top right here, 1, 2, and then a 3rd time through, and that bait should sit pretty well. And so got a good piece right here, and then get the head piece, hook it, try to hook it twice through the body there, and then once in between the eyes, expose the hook, and we're all ready. So bait it up, got our weight, or hook with bait and weight, so that's the high-low rig. Okay, so depending on where you're fishing, you want to know where to cast. So here I know there's a channel, you can see it during low tide, so I'm going to try to cast into that. It's currently incoming tide, high tide's at 7 or 8. I just want to avoid the paddle border, so yeah, let's make a cast. Okay, that was far enough. Okay, now loosen it up and let that sit. So you want to have your rod secured in a good place in case a big ray comes and takes it, but that's why I like to set my drag relatively loose, just loose enough so that fish can pull it easily, but the wind won't be able to click it, so there won't be any false alarms. A lot of people don't like to set their drag loose, and you don't want to set it too loose, if not the cap can fall off. But the main reason I do that is because a lot of my friends have had rods, like 3 rods, I think, lost 3 rods because their drag was too tight, and if you don't have a good spot like this, your rod's probably going to fly out, so that's why I like to keep my drag loose. So that's how you start ray fishing, and hopefully I'll leave my line out here and we'll have something pretty soon. So yep, let's hope for some fish. Okay, I think we could have a fish on, so I'm going to show you guys what I do when I have a fish. So I'm going to take it out, of course, tighten it up a bit, then grab the spool. Oh, yeah. I can't tell. Has to be really small. Oh yeah. I don't know what it is. I mean, it swam towards me, but it's really small. Could be a shark. I'm not exactly sure. Feels really weird, probably. Oh, it's a little ray. Tiny, tiny ray. Why? Oh my. School of bait right here. Look at that thing. It's almost a joke. Oh well, it's something. Let's get him up here. You want to be careful of the barb, but let's get this guy unhooked and throw him back. I have my pliers. I laid this guy on his back. You gotta watch out for the barb. What I like to do is just grab it. I mean, that's how you unhook a fish. You gotta be careful of the... Okay, you get the hook out, you gotta be careful of that barb. See that thing right there? Yeah. And so I flipped him over, and you wanna grab him. There's a little hole behind its eyes. I don't know what it is. You wanna hold it far away from you, and then let him go. There he goes. That was cool. That was not the greatest example, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you bat ray fish. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.